that $285,000 annually be paid to the town of Grafton in municipal taxes. And over a period of 20 years, that's over $5.7 million in municipal taxes. We also show here the town of Windham. As you all know, this is a project with Windham and Grafton. And yes, we're focusing on Grafton here this evening, but in Windham we would be proposing, when we meet there tomorrow evening, 20 wind turbines. MTL has 3,500 acres in Windham, so 20 there, and with the same proposal it would be an additional $715,000 a year. So the total for the project would be about $1 million a year in municipal taxes to the two towns. So over a period of 20 years would be $20 million. And I would also just wanted to mention that of the $285,000 that I mentioned, it would be 31% of, approximately 31% of Grafton's existing town budget. And then separately, and what you'll see here on the bottom, and we have some materials to hand out to you after to better explain the municipal tax structure and how wind projects are taxed for the state, the tax education department. And that's a separate tax from the municipal tax. And we estimate that approximately $700,000 annually will be paid to the state education fund as part of our project based on the calculation that is set here in the state for state education taxes. So I'm going to stop there, and Mike Clayton's going to come up and show you some of the visual simulations that we have here for this evening. And then when he finishes, I'll come back up and talk a little bit about where we go from here. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mike Clayton. I work for Iberdrola Renewables. I work in the permitting and environmental group. My job is kind of to coordinate all of the environmental studies, cultural resources studies, wetlands, wildlife, any of those kinds of studies that go into a permit application or a filing. I also coordinate the visual assessments that we do to determine the feasibility of the project on the surrounding areas. And that's what we're going to be talking about here this evening. We have some visual simulations that we're going to be showing, but before we get to that, there's a lot of different things, there's a few different things anyway we can do to assess the feasibility of a project, one of which is simulations. But before we get to that, we can do some called viewshed mapping to determine where you can see the project or not in the surrounding areas. And that's something we've started to do. We're still in the kind of preliminary phases of that, and we still have some verification and ground truth review to that. But the initial indications and results of that mapping is that project will, visibility will be limited throughout much of Grafton, and there's going to be a lot of areas in Grafton that you're not going to be able to see the project at all. And so we take that initial mapping, and from there we kind of identify places where we wanted to do some visual simulations for you guys tonight. Visual simulations, they're the result of this process, kind of a complex technical process, taking computer-enhanced images and then superimposing turbines in the background to present a shot of what a view from wherever would look like with the constructed project. It's kind of complicated. There's a lot that goes into it, and I'll kind of touch on that at a high level. But it's it's more than just taking a picture and kind of copying and pasting turbines on top. And the end result is you have a realistic, accurate image of what the project would look like. And that's the important thing. It's got to be realistic and accurate. The simulations that we've done are based on, they're layout specific. They're based on this layout. They're based on the turbine type that Jenny talked about earlier. So, if layout was to change, if turbines were to move, the simulations, we'd have to do them again and reassess it. So again, I said it's a pretty technical process. At a high level, we got you take the photo that you want to do a simulation of. You build a three-dimensional computer model of the project. You incorporate some of the data you collect, like take the picture, angles, time of day, time of year, a lot of other things you can take, what direction you're looking at. Go ahead, thanks. And then you can start to superimpose all these things together and bring in digital terrain models, and before it's done, you can put in some finishing touches based on where the sun is, what time of day it is, the angles, that kind of thing. And like I said, the end result is a realistic and accurate simulation. We have retained a company called EDR to help us with our visual assessments. Pat Heaton here is from EDR. He's a principal. He's managed some of these efforts that we've been working on so far. EDR is an environmental engineering and consulting firm. They've been around for a long time. They've been doing visual work for about 30 years. They've done this type of work for over 40 wind projects. They've worked with us on a bunch of our wind projects. And they have a proven track record, and they have this demonstrated accuracy that they've demonstrated on the record. And what I mean by that, these are two shots. The shot on the left is a simulation they did in support of our Grafton wind project in New Hampshire. That was part of our permit applications. The shot on the right is an actual photograph taken a year and a half after the project was built from the same location. This was taken before the wind turbines were even there, a year and a half before we started construction. Shot on the right is the actual photograph. And those are taken about a mile away from the turbines. So you got pretty perfect viewing conditions, clear line of sight, no ridges in the way, no obstructions, no trees, no buildings, 1 mile away. This is another one, same kind of thing. Shot on the left is a simulation that they put together as part of our permit applications. A year and a half before construction started. Shot on the right is an actual photograph that was taken from that same location after the project was built. These are taken about 3 miles away from turbines. So again, you've got ideal viewing conditions, no obstructions, no ridges in the way, no mountains, no trees in the way, and that's at 3 miles. So that's, to kind of put it into perspective, the village here is about 3 miles from where turbines are going to be for the project. So kind of puts it into perspective. Okay, so like I said, we put together some simulations. This is just an existing condition shot, but we took mapping that we started to put together, tried to identify areas where that mapping predicted that there would be some visibility. When we do this mapping, the visibility can mean anything from a blade tip to an entire turbine or multiple turbines, so it's kind of varied in the results. But we picked a few spots and just kind of show you where we are. So we have a shot from Grafton Ponds, which is Grafton Ponds. We got another one from further south on Townsend Road, looking towards the project. This one's looking towards the project. We have a view from Grafton Inn, and we have a view from Putnam Forest Road and Route 21. So this is the existing condition shot from the Grafton Ponds parking lot. This picture was taken a few months ago in September. That is the simulation of what the project would look like from there. Same spot. There's a little blade tip that's just peeking up right over the horizon there. And that's what you're going to see of the project from that location. So this, again, is further south on Townsend Road, down about here. So that shot, by the way, I believe it's about 2 miles from that, but I believe the other shot is about 2 miles from turbines. This one's taken down here on Townsend Road, looking up towards these turbines. It's about 1 mile away from the nearest turbine. Visibility is going to be limited to a blade tip right there. So we probably know where that is. That's Grafton Inn, right across the street, looking towards the project. We're standing about here, looking this way. A little over 3 miles from the nearest turbine. Our preliminary mapping and analysis indicate that you're not going to have any visibility from there. Go to the next one. This is a graphic. It's called a cross-section of the line of sight, and it kind of explains why you're not going to be able to see anything from there. So bear with me, I'll explain what we're looking at. So it's your line of sight. So this line here is what you're looking at if you're standing across the street from the Grafton Inn here, looking at a turbine up here. So this point represents the blade tip. So when the turbine blade's standing straight up, the very top of the blade is called your blade tip. So when we talk about tip height, that's what that's talking about. When the blade's straight up at the very end. So that's the tip of the blade. This is the elevation and topography and terrain and ridges that exist between where that viewpoint was taken and where the turbine is. So if you see this, there's elevations on the side. This is approximately 2,250 feet up here where the turbines are. This is down, at about 500 or 600 feet. So what you're looking at in that picture, you're not seeing turbines because you're seeing this prominent ridge that's about 1 mile away from where you're standing. So you can't see turbines because this line of sight, you have to be able to see through this ridge to see that turbine 3.7 miles away. So that kind of explains why you can't see it. So this is a shot taken from the bottom of Putnam Forest Road, which is here, right kind of where 121 and Putnam Forest Road intersect, and it's looking kind of southwest. You're about almost 3.5 miles from the nearest turbines in that shot, and again, our analysis and mapping and modeling indicate you're not going to have any visibility from that location either. And this is a similar cross-section of the line of sight. You're standing here. Turbine blade tip is up here. When you're looking in that direction, there's ridges in the way that you can't see up and over them. They're just blocking the visibility, so you're not going to be able to see it. That's what I
Thank you, Mike. A couple things that I forgot to mention because I thought I could do it without my notes, but just a reminder about our timeline, which I know a lot of you have seen, and it's up here if you want to take a closer look at it. Excuse me. But just to let folks know that we are still in the very early stage of development, and we are in the preliminary study layout phase of that. So we have this layout that we've shown you here this evening that we are now able to begin the on-the-site, on-the-ground environmental studies for. So we've got the next year to begin having site-specific studies done at these locations. So just wanted to remind folks that we are still in the study phase, and that is what you see here. In addition, and I know it's the first time that we've talked about economic benefits and that we still have a lot of conversation to have about that, but what I wanted to mention was that a couple examples, the project that is in Lowell, Vermont, the Kingdom Community Wind Project, they have chosen to use their municipal tax from the wind project to eliminate municipal taxes in their town. And in the town of Sheffield, the Sheffield project, they chose to reduce their taxes by 50% and then invest 50% in a rainy day type fund. So just a couple examples of what two existing projects in Vermont have done with their municipal tax dollars. So just in closing, we've got our initial layout here. Where we move to next here over the next few months and over the next year is to, as I mentioned, continue and start our field studies, and then to have early next year after the holidays a workshop where we can get into the technical details of some of the information that we've shared here this evening, as well as the other areas that we are studying. And as we have information and results from our studies, we will share them with you. So I envision many meetings next year for us to share with you. And based on our schedule as we are here today and have outlined, we would anticipate being in a position to have a project proposal for you to vote on next November. So thank you all again for coming, and we look forward to hearing your questions.
Okay, so we have quite a bit more time for discussion. And here's how we're going to proceed. The Iberdrola team is going to be up here with MTL folks and several folks from the Department of Taxes, Douglas Farman and Doug Lake. Can you sort of signal who you are? And Pat Heaton from EDR, who did the visuals simulations, is also here to answer questions. Let me get a sense of the room of how many of you have questions that you want to raise. Okay, so not a huge number. Want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to ask a question. So what I ask is that you try to be relatively concise and share, so we can share the time that we have. And what I'm going to do is just go randomly. If anybody has to leave early or something, just signal so I can make sure that you have a chance to get your question in before you take off. So again, can I see the show of hands? Just folks that want to ask questions. And I'm just going to start here and work the room if that's okay. So, start. Oh, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but two things. One is, do we have a traveling mic so that there's some...
I won't need it.
Okay, it doesn't sound like a role. And ask that you identify who you are and where you're from.
Okay. My name is John Turner. I live at 1246 Middletown Road. My question is, how did you choose the sites for the visual photographs? I noticed that you used Townsend Road, which is a low-lying road. You used the Grafton Inn, which is a low-lying road. You used Putnam Forest Road, which also has a very low elevation. There are areas in Grafton, such as the peak of Middletown Road, Hinkley Brook Road, Fisher Hill Road, and the Chester Road, that I think would be areas that you would be looking at to demonstrate to the community what the real impact of the visual presentation should be. Could you tell me why you chose not to do that?
Yeah, well, like I said, we did some preliminary mapping. We picked sites that we thought would be representative of, were public areas, places of interest, people that, the whole room would want to know and see what it looked like from those locations. I kind of didn't say this, but that's kind of the start. The ones I showed were the first batch that we've done. We're working on more. As Jenny said, we're looking to have like a kind of a technical workshop, open house sort of thing here in the beginning of next year. We're going to have more simulations. We can certainly take those into consideration. I mean, we're trying to pick public spots, like I said, that are, areas of interest, the public places that people might congregate or go to, but those are areas that we can certainly look into. And like I said, we're gonna get these simulations that we did up on our website. We're working on some more. I think early next year we can have more for people to see. We're thinking about having a more technical format, so we can have some more folks from EDR kind of sitting down. People can ask them sort of questions about locations and visibility, how it comes together, that kind of thing. But those are certainly places we'll check out.
Okay, thank you. And if I might, one follow-up comment. You're talking about public areas, but I think when you come into Grafton, one of the things that you want to be considering isn't so much the people that come to Grafton to view the public areas, but the impact on the people who live here, which are not necessarily public areas. So I would think that the visual piece of this should represent the highest degree of visibility that will exist and work backwards from that, not work forward from the least.
Okay. Makes sense.
Sir.
Jenny, I'm Sam Badaglino. I live in Middletown Road. Jenny, how'd you derive that $20 million figure? Is that based on energy produced per turbine? How has that come about?
We took a look at the operating projects in Vermont and what they're paying in municipal taxes, and we arrived at a number that we thought was consistent with that, and then we multiplied it by the number of megawatts, and then annually over time, the 20 years is the total.
But that could vary greatly with the wind, the produced energy.
It's not based on production.
It's not based on production. What is it this per day? What's it based on?
It's based on installed megawatts.
Installed megawatts.
Yes.
What happens if
So
it doesn't make that required megawatt load?
Would you please repeat the question?
Maybe I'm misunderstanding. What happens if it doesn't produce as much electricity as you need it to, or megawatts you need it to?
It's based on megawatts installed, not megawatt hours.
Okay, well, can you explain that to me?
Okay, so each, as I mentioned before, Each wind turbine is 3.45, I apologize, I have a cold. Each megawatt installed would be 3.45 megawatts, and the payment would be based off each installed turbine, not based on what it produces. So in the case of Grafton, with the 8 turbines at 27.6 megawatts, that wouldn't change based on production. We'd be paying based on 27.6 megawatts.
Okay, so that will not change at all
That
then?
will not change.
Thank you.
Here we go.
Other questions? Yes, in the back.
Skip Lyle from Grafton. My family lives about 1.5 miles downwind from potential turbine sites. And we're very concerned about that because of both audible sound, but even more so infrasound. But I'm even more concerned about people on the Townsend Road. And there's a lot more people there. And I think there's potential for them to be a lot closer. And being downwind is very significant, as you know. I'd like to know, and I think we can all assume that you're going to put these in the mountaintops. But I'd like to know how close the nearest turbine is to the closest people, on your plan as it stands now, to the closest people on the Townsend Road.
I would have to double check. I think these ones that we took simulations from right around here. It was about 1 mile.
I think it's about 1 mile.
From here to the
That's
nearest
what I
turbine.
calculated, yeah. I was hoping it would be back further, but
I mean, that's roughly.
thank you.
Yes.
Do you have a number on how many people, not just in Grafton, but in Grafton, in Wyndham, will be within 1 mile, and how many people will be within 1.5 miles now that you have some sort of projected project, and how many people will be in that danger range of sound?
I don't know the number. I don't have the number. We can.
I would like that number. I think the public would like that number.
And I just heard Jenny say that she'll get that for you.
Okay, thanks.
Um,
Both towns,
And, sorry, did you say your name?
Carroll and Grafton.
Great, thanks. Other folks? Sir?
Bill Atwood, Grafton. I live down on the Grafton-Athens line where I won't be able to see it or hear it, which I'm happy about. This number, 5.7 million, is really a kind of a number that can grab you and really make you think we're going to get some money out of this. But it's probably about the cost of another flood like ours. It's caused from the destruction of soil and so forth up there. Is there any insurance that Iberdrola will kick in to help pay for that? Another flood that's caused because of the environmental impact up there? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, with regards to the, when we design roads for this project or any other project, we install stormwater management features that are typically required and overseen by the state. State of Vermont's the same way. They have very stringent stormwater management requirements, so they would all need to be installed along roads, or there have to be retention ponds and other features that help manage stormwater, retain stormwater, those kinds of things. So, when you go up to the site now, there really isn't any kind of stormwater management or anything. I mean, there's some access roads, but they don't have much in terms of stormwater management features. But the roads that we would have to build for the project would be required to have those types of features. So, I don't know if that totally. I don't know if we would be, insurance. I don't know if we have insurance or.
How many acres of land are you going to make impervious to water?
It would be, based on the total project, 28 turbines. It's hard to say, but I would say less than 100. Don might know.
I think you're probably less than 50 acres.
Yeah. Not much. When we build the projects, there's not, you're looking at 5,000 acres of land owned by MTL. But, our project and the project footprint I mean, we've started environmental studies, and we've created what we call a study corridor. So it goes around all the turbines and all the roads, and that study corridor is about 700 acres, but that's just so, you know, if we do a wetland delineation and there's a vernal pool that we need to move, we need to shift the road this way, you know, we would already have surveyed a little bit of a corridor, so we have that flexibility. But after we're done building the project footprint, Don said, could be 50 acres. I mean, it might be 2 acres per turbine, would be impervious based on roads, turbines, any kind of O&M facility, that kind of thing.
Typical for our fleet across the country is around 2 acres per turbine. So, including all the access roads. So, oftentimes when we're, we have to spell this out very specifically, especially when we're dealing with farmland and taking crop land out of production. So, those are numbers that we have to survey for farmers when we lease land for them. And very typically, it's 2 acres or less per turbine, including access roads and O&M facilities.
Just to back that up, Bill, up in Sheffield, I think it's right around 3 acres for the turbine footprint, including all the access roads. 68 acres.
So over here and then.
Grafton. Can you tell me, it's kind of a two-part question, when you say the $285,000 per year, is that based on our tax rate and it will fluctuate as our taxes?
No, we would propose that as a set rate.
Set rate?
Yes.
And that's done before the project's done?
Yes.
Okay, and how will that impact our state education tax?
The state of Vermont, actually, would Douglas, do you want to take that? Thank you.
Douglas Farnham, Director of Property Valuation Review for the Department of Taxes. So we have a fact sheet that we brought tonight from the department. It's a published document from the state of Vermont that essentially explains how wind-powered electric generating facilities are separate from the education grant list. So this project would have absolutely no impact on the education grant list for Grafton, state education grant list. The municipal grant list is completely up to the town, and the state is kind of hands-off about any agreements between the developers and the municipalities about tax rates and values there.
So can you clarify, because my understanding is that the project team will be paying into the education fund, and just wouldn't affect the rate that people would.
Right, so the payment to the education fund is under a separate law, and it's based on the actual energy produced. So that's where it gets a little confusing, because the municipal tax is often based off of the value of the facility itself, the actual physical structure. And then the statewide education portion is based off of the kilowatt hours produced by those facilities. So that would vary depending on how much energy is actually produced. And that's at, 0.3 of a cent per kilowatt hour. So you scale that up to...
We give them approximately 700,000.
Yeah, and their math agrees with ours on how much is projected.
So do I have it right, that payments from this project into the state pool would lower everybody's education taxes slightly across the state? Is that right?
Across the state, but 700,000 for the whole state. It would not be measurable in any significant way.
So, Jenny, is the 285, is that negotiable? Or is that?
That's our proposal today. But yes,
Yes,
That sounds like a yes to me.
yes.
I'm sorry.
That's yes.
There was something in the middle, a woman in the middle of the back, and she said, sure, go ahead.
My name is Lisa Kittel, and you don't have a buyer for the power. Green Mountain Power has also just recently said that they have enough wind power, and they are not planning on purchasing any more. And Also, the governor has just come out saying that large energy projects are not suitable for Vermont. They should not be corporate grown, but Vermont grown. And he is not in favor of large corporate projects. He has also said that if a town doesn't want a project, it should not happen. So you don't have a buyer for the power, and you don't seem to have the cooperation of the governor, so why are you doing this project?
What's your question?
That was the question.
Is why, given the questionable support of the governor and without a buyer, why is the team wanting to proceed?
Sure, it's a great question, and specifically, GMP answered a question about a specific project that lost a local vote, and so GMP has explicitly made a commitment to projects that have, or explicitly expressed an interest in not being associated with projects or purchasing power for projects that don't have local support. To reiterate what we have stated in our in meetings previously, it's important for us to win a successful vote here in Grafton and Wyndham for us to be able to move forward. That's been the precedent here in Vermont, and that's what we will do here, is honor the vote. So GMP's response was specific to a specific project, but also if you look at the state having passed a more aggressive legislative goal to purchase more renewable energy, it's called a RPS, a Renewable Portfolio Standard. They just did that legislatively this past summer. We don't necessarily even know, again, looking at our timeline, what the market is going to look like 4 years from now. So there are a lot of variables here, but we think that broadly there's an interest in renewable energy in Vermont, and this project, if we truly have a project here that works, could help meet that demand.
So,
Can I respond to that for a second?
go ahead. Yes.
I spoke today with Kristen Carlson of Green Mountain Power, and she told me that they are not buying wind power at this time and don't see it in the foreseeable future. And it was not specific to any project. It was wind across the board. She said it was very expensive and they were not buying it at this time or any time in the future. I spoke to her today.
Okay, I mean, we're looking at a market that's 4 years from now. We've seen the wind energy market change a lot. If you look at where we were 4 years ago.
You said it was specific to the project, and she...
Sure. And I think as a larger part of what we look at when we see Vermont and we see a new legislative standard seeking more renewable energy, and GMP having a track record of buying power from projects that have earned community support, then yeah, we'll look at that in the future. And obviously that's part of what we're evaluating every day.
So this gentleman next to you, yeah.
I think the number I was told this evening was $280,000 roughly, plus or minus in the town of Grafton. I just wanted to be sure that you people standing up there understand there's a human health impact, which I haven't heard mentioned, and Skip Lyle mentioned. The people who are living closest, 121 West, okay, and also Townsend Road, have a human health impact by industrial wind turbines of this site in Grafton. And I'd like to know how you people are planning on addressing the human health impact to the citizens of this community.
I mean, I think we point to the robust permitting process that the state of Vermont has in place, the type of work that we do in evaluating the viability of this site, the work that we do in having these meetings, in soliciting feedback and trying to understand what a project means in Grafton and Wyndham. So we look to you first and foremost, but we look to a rigorous permitting process that governs a lot of the pieces that we're talking about today in terms of the science that goes into it, in terms of the locations of where the turbines go, in terms of what we can and can't do. So we use that as a starting point. But as you know, we're just at the beginning of that process, having really just studied the wind for the past few years and beginning the process of evaluating what it means to put 28 turbines in the locations that we've mapped out here tonight.
I just want to respond to that. It's not viable if it's harming people in the community. It's not a viable project if people are being hurt.
so this gentleman's been waiting for quite a while.
I'm Alan Sands, Grafton. Follow-up question about the flood issue. And I was involved in Irene, so I have some appreciation and seen what's happened in town since we moved here in 1973. I've heard many people have the same concern and feeling that that's reason alone not to do any development in the headwaters. My thought is, if you do nothing in the headwaters, we already know what's going to happen in the future. Nothing will change. We'll have floods in the future. So nothing changes. As part of the process, having visited several other sites, I know they do studies before construction and they do studies after construction. Do you do studies that identify or could identify where our problems are coming from, and as a condition or part of your permit, could that require you to take action to stabilize if you can identify where the problem is?
And what kind of problems are you referring to?
Flood-related problems.
We have to do a lot of baseline studies that, to test the water quality of the streams and the wetland delineations and other environmental studies before construction. After construction, there's typically post-construction monitoring requirements that require us to go out and kind of replicate some of these studies, test the water quality again after construction to make sure that our project isn't causing any kind of water quality impairments. And we've done that at other sites, have done the same kind of thing, pre-construction baseline surveys, post-construction water quality type surveys, and the water quality's been as good, if not maybe even a little better, because we've stabilized a lot of the roads, we have the stormwater management systems in place, a lot of that kind of thing. As it relates to flooding, the stuff we do is typically focused on the project and the roads that we've built and our development, but I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of where our focus typically would be.
Let me just add a little bit. I'm Don Hammond. I'm part of our engineering group at Iberdrola. As part of the evaluation, Mike talked about the permitting aspects and the studies and the evaluation. Part of the additional study is we look at the entire site. We look at the hydrology for the entire site and map out water flows throughout the entire site to identify if there is a storm, a heavy storm, and we usually look at 10-year, 100-year rainfall type situations, and map that out for the entire site as to where that water is going. And then part of the design process is to essentially manage that water flow that could be expected with a 100-year flood. And then as part of the project with the design of roads and so on, all of the stormwater management is designed to control the entire flow of water from the various parts of the site to avoid that uncontrolled discharge of water off of the site, off of the impervious areas.
Good questions. Let me do a round before we do repeats here. Yes, hold on to the glasses up.
Seems like everyone has glasses on their head. I'm Norley Holm from Grafton. And of the 3 employees working at your Leominster plant, none came from New Hampshire. Can we assume that similarly a facility here would not hire any local permanent employees?
I don't know. We have 5 employees at Leominster, and Jeremy said he just spent the day with them last week, and there's 2 of them that are from New Hampshire. I think I would just say, separate from Leominster, that we do make every effort that we can to hire local folks for the jobs, if they're qualified and able to take the job. So that first and foremost is our goal, is to hire from in-state and local. I have a different experience where I'm from. In our local project, 35 of the technicians, they all are local hires. So I think if you have the qualified folks, they would first and foremost come from Vermont. And maybe I would just mention here that we would probably anticipate between 4 and 6 permanent employees for the site that we proposed here, for operating the site. There's other sort of indirect jobs that are part of the project as well, but 4 to 6 permanent, well-paying jobs.
Yes.
Steve Fisher, Grafton. Back to the roads and flooding. I think part of the advantage here, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but there's a power line that goes right through the middle of this project, correct? Would you be using that power line and improving the roads and the water runoff of that power line? Because I know for a fact right now that power line is a problem. I mean, I've used it for recreation, and there is a lot of problems on that power line that I don't think was addressed when they put the power line in. And I'm hoping that that would be addressed when you guys did the project.
We have not proceeded in the project long enough to know whether we would use that existing road along the power line. It poses issues, both from a technical standpoint, because some sections are extremely steep and much too steep for a road that we would use for a wind project. The other issue is that it exists almost primarily on the right-of-way of power line, and so any use of that is going to require agreements between us and the utility.
But it's still Meadowsend land.
It can be difficult to make sure that our use is not going to interfere with their access and their requirements. Aside from that, as we are looking at the hydrology for the entire site, we may not be improving that road, but we may be taking a lot of water away from that road that currently exists because it has no controls. And so in the areas where we are developing roads and working in the area, we will be installing stormwater controls that, at least in some areas, are probably going to take stormwater off of the road.
That aren't there now. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I just like to know, what did you use for a tip height when you did your visual calculations? What did you use for a tip height?
Blade tip height is 150 meters, which is about 492 feet.
I'm curious about when you said there'll be a town vote between Wyndham and Grafton. Do both towns need to agree in order for the project to go forward? Or can one town say yes, the other say no, and you still go forward? And if Grafton says yes and Wyndham says no, is Grafton favorable for more turbines or vice versa?
I think, there's 1,500 acres that MTL has in Grafton, and we think here preliminarily probably have the most locations that can be in Grafton as a result of the land available. I think we'll continue as we get results from our studies and continue to evaluate that and see if there's an option to either add or not. So at this time, I think this is where we're at with the information we have today. But we always are learning, and that could change. But on the vote question, on the vote question, as we are here today, we see this as a two-town project and have it sort of laid out that way. I think if the results are, as you say, one versus the other, that we would have to reevaluate that project separately and give it a whole nother evaluation to determine, could the project work in one town, the size, the impacts that Paul mentions, the market and for the power and all those things that go into whether it be this project as a whole or not. And I can say that, if we have a town vote yes, we will do what we can to make a project work.
So the visuals that you showed us, were those just the Grafton turbines, or were those some of the Wyndham? So if Wyndham says yes and we said no, will we still see the same impact without benefits?
Well, first let me say, and I should have said this, is that you'll see easels set up around the room, and so the visual simulations that you saw up here will be up on a poster board, as well as the visuals that we have for Wyndham that will be shown there tomorrow evening as well. So the Wyndham visuals will be up as well after we finish the Q&A. To answer your question about the benefits, is that the benefits come when the turbines are installed in your town, and those are the direct benefits. And I think in the case you ask if it's Wyndham and not Grafton, then no turbines are installed in Grafton, you probably wouldn't anticipate any benefit.
Well, right.
If it was just Wyndham only.
But would we see any of Wyndham's turbines, even though?
Those simulations had all the turbines. So
Had
those
all
were
the turbines.
28 turbines, yep. We
Yes.
had points in Wyndham, or in Grafton, but it's all the turbines. So if hypothetically speaking,
Say
the
no.
Wyndham project went away, I mean, we would reevaluate visibility, and we'd kind of go through the whole process again. I mean, I don't know if you'd be seeing, if the turbines you're seeing from any given point, because those are a lot further away, but, we would reevaluate visibility and everything.
But there is a chance, though, that if Wyndham does say yes and Grafton says no, what you simulated is what we're going to see, whether they're in Grafton or not.
Correct. Or,
Okay.
Well, I think the key point here is that the visual simulations include all the turbines.
and I don't think it's determined no.
I was just gonna say, I think what we saw with Grafton turbines,
So you're saying if Grafton says no, Wyndham says yes. I mean, the turbines, the few turbines we saw were turbines in Grafton. Like the shot from here, you saw this blade tip. The shot from here, you saw these blade tips. So you weren't seeing any of those. So
Folks on 121 in Capitol Road would see the Wyndham ones, even if Grafton didn't go forward, I think.
Well, that's what I'm kind of wondering, will be somewhere in the windows if Wyndham goes forward and you choose to go forward.
it's certainly possible.
Yeah, they've done a whole.
But like Mike's saying, we would do a whole new evaluation and have another meeting like this with that project proposal. And then just one last thing on economic benefits as you raise it again. What I presented here this evening is the direct economic benefits focused on municipal tax and then the school tax to explain that. What we haven't talked about very much, and we will in the future, is the indirect benefits. And we will engage a third party to help us assess that, the indirect benefits with jobs, with improvements to roads, different things across both locally and across the state, that the resources we use, et cetera, that add benefits to the state as a whole in addition down to the local indirect benefits. So what you see here are direct benefits focused on municipal and school tax, and the next step will be the indirect benefits as well.
No, I think what she meant was that, if you don't, Grafton was voted down, Wyndham had them. Someplace in Grafton, you're gonna go look over and still see wind turbines in Wyndham and not regain benefits.
Right, so,
Right. So, that's what I pointed to.
Okay.
No, you have something, but let me get this person and then.
Thank you. It's our understanding that in Herkimer County, in upstate New York, over 60 families have sued Iberdrola because of noise violations as a result of your project there. Is it the case that you gave them fans to drown out the noise that they were documenting? And what has since happened to their claims? Have they withdrawn them, or what is the status of that situation, please?
I'm sorry, did you tell us your name?
I did not. Anna Vesely Paulette, I live in Grafton.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a legal situation, so I can't say a whole lot about it, but I'm trying to remember all the various questions you had. So that's a different project from this one, I would point out, in that there are a series of homes actually within a project footprint there. So it's a patchwork of landowners and leases there, which you don't have in a case like this, a single landowner, a contiguous piece of land. There is an ongoing legal action there, but there is a local sound ordinance in the towns where the project is based. We are legally responsible for meeting that sound ordinance. Folks have raised this as an issue. We have actually, in fact, altered some of the operations of turbines. There are some steps that we can take with regard to the sound that they emit. We've done that in a few cases there as part of the post-construction testing that has been that we've undertaken there. So it is an ongoing question. This is a fan question. I'm aware of a consultant who gave a single family a sound machine, white noise machine that there wasn't a wholesale response by the company to address the sound. So we're in discussions with the town as to our compliance, but we're working with the towns, we're working with the state, we're working with sound monitors in that situation.
Can I follow up, please? Sure. Thank you. You've stated when you explained the locations of the turbines, the likely locations, and that some of them would be within 1.5 miles of residences. Am I remembering that correctly?
1 mile.
Pardon me?
1 mile.
1 mile, thank you. The instances in Herkimer, I understand the patchwork and the different arrangement of people's residences in the project. Are you talking about similar distances, 1 mile from the turbines?
I believe so, yes.
No, the turbines in Herkimer.
So the turbines at that particular project in Herkimer County are actually closer to homes than they would be at this project.
Okay, so I'm going to come back to you, and then we'll go to the people behind you.
Okay, mine's a perfect follow-up to hers.
Good.
You want me to go now?
Yes.
Okay. My question concerned the sound. Earlier, there was a question raised as far as identifying the properties that were in certain radiuses, a half a mile, a mile and a half. Are you prepared to put out an engineering study for homes within those distances, what the decibel output would be that these people would be subjected to, so that as homeowners in Grafton, people will have some quantitative data to look at going in as to what the noise impact will be for them, so that we're not in a situation such as Herkimer?
Yeah, we are, now that we have the layout firmed up to this extent, we're starting a process to do some in-depth sound modeling, and that's something we can, talk more about in detail, when we do these technical workshops. And we have a requirement to site all the turbines so they'll meet the state sound threshold. So we have to do that, and like I said, I think when we get more into that, we'll have our consultant up here, and we can review some of the sound modeling that we've done and tell you what that looks like. And we can do that, like I said, when we do some more of these technical workshops. We're going to start doing those early next year. So we've got a lot of stuff to roll out here as we get studies done and that kind of thing.
There was someone pointing back. There's a guy in black and then the woman.
I have a question about light pollution. Will our night skies ever look the same again?
What's late sky effects?
We do have a requirement from the FAA to put lights on a certain number of turbines. Usually it's less than half of the turbines, but the FAA identifies to us which turbines need to be lit at night for aircraft notification. That is part of the process and permitting that we go through to file with the Federal Aviation Administration all of the locations, the specific heights, and they go through a process to determine whether there is a risk to aviation from each location and issue a determination of no hazard for each location, and that has to be done before we're allowed to even start construction. As I said,
Those lights go on the tip to the blade?
The lights are mounted on the nacelle of the turbine, not on the blades.
So here, the nacelle is where the blades come together, so like a picture of turbine.
And they are specified by the FAA as far as the color. They're red lights. They have a specific light emission policy or design, so that they're sending out a beam with about a 3-degree focus. So it's a very focused light. They're obviously made to be seen by aircraft at night. They are visible, but they are a requirement of the project.
And is that something that gets woven into the visual analysis or something? The night sky? I'm just anticipating somebody's going to ask that.
To my knowledge, we have never done a visual simulation of the lighting for the turbines.
Nighttime
simulation.
It's something
we can certainly look at that.
Talking about.
Certainly we can, we will identify.
You know how far they can be seen? Like, can you see them a mile, can you see that line for a mile and a half, how far it goes?
I cannot answer the question. Obviously, they are located, I think they're located on the side of the nacelle, so depending on the orientation of the nacelle, you may or may not. But they're designed to be seen by aircraft, so they are going to be able to be seen more than a mile away, I'm sure.
So better visual person here.
Regarding the FAA lights, we have done visual simulations showing FAA night lighting before. What's often much more effective is that we've gone out and photographed existing projects at night from various distances so that you can see what the lights look like from various distances, and that's something that we could add to a future presentation. Regarding how visible they are, it depends on the same factors that affect the visibility of the turbines. Topography and vegetation, buildings, they screen the views of the lights as much as they would a turbine. So if you have an open view of a turbine that has a light on it, you will see the light on it. If you don't have an open view of that turbine, then you wouldn't see the light. But they don't radiate in some larger way, where if you can't see the turbine, you can still see the light. That's correct.
So, yes. Yes.
Yeah, so in the town of Falmouth, Massachusetts, a wind facility has been ordered to shut down at night because the residents just lost their sleep and lost their health and quality of life. Are you prepared to shut down at night if our residents suffer and cannot live with the noise at night?
We have to follow Vermont law on that. They evaluate a whole range of options in terms of where we can site the projects and decide whether the project is permissible. And there's a post-construction protocol if the project isn't running properly or isn't running within permit conditions. We've got laws to follow that Vermont has in place for the safe operation of the project.
Well, Paul, if I may just follow up, I believe in Massachusetts they also follow Massachusetts law. And the problem, of course, only appears after the fact when the residents have been living with it for a while. So this is not known necessarily beforehand. So my question again, are you prepared to shut down the operation at night?
We have to model, I don't know the answer. I mean, we have to model for the types of questions that people want to better understand, whether that's sound, visuals, and that usually goes into whether folks are, whether the state views this as a project that they can allow to go forward. There's a range of that. The wildlife impacts, the stormwater impacts, visual sound, all of that goes into a lengthy state process where we have to show that this project meets a variety of rigorous state standards in order to move forward. And if we can't show that ahead of time, there's also a process after the fact to adjust in order to meet our permit conditions.
In the plan, yes.
Paul, maybe you can answer this for me. I understand that some of these projects are sold, and I was wondering if Iberdrola does sell the projects. And if, let me finish it, and if they do, what happens to our contractual agreement, our 20-year payout, so on and so forth? Are we negotiating it again with another company?
Our business model is primarily to own and operate the projects long term. So we have over 55 projects that we own and operate. Most of them we have either built ourselves or acquired from other companies. I'm trying to remember if we've ever built and operated a project and then turned it over to somebody else, to some other company. I can't recall. That isn't to say we aren't necessarily evaluating all business opportunities out there, but usually when project transactions like this occur, everything that goes with it, the permits, the contracts, the tax agreements with local communities are transferred. They are equally binding to the next party.
And the town could negotiate that in the contract with you folks, right? I mean, my understanding is the town can negotiate for a project at whatever it wants, and if that's something that's important to the town, that you have that kind of long-term predictability, that's part of the negotiation process. Yeah. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, my name is Kirk Goodwin from right here in Grafton. What's the life expectancy of a wind turbine? That's my first question.
25 years?
Okay, and there's been many instances where these turbines have burned up. What's your fire protection for us? Forest fires.
It's extremely rare. I mean, we have over 3,000 wind turbines in operation. There are tens of thousands of wind turbines in operation across the U.S. in 40 different states. It's extremely rare. I think the important thing to note is that when it has happened, the damage has been limited to the turbines themselves.
Instead, the decibel level been changed by the state recently? Okay, well, you mentioned, okay, here, there's a follow-up. And I personally know people in Albany, John, Shirley, Nelson, and in Sheffield, the Thayers. They had a problem. It was like, nobody cared. They stonewalled after. The Thayers had to move out because they were sick from the infrasound. Don and Shirley Nelson, who I went to school with Don, first and second grade in Albany, Vermont, they were agitated by the sound, and they kept records, and the sound level was right at the maximum all the time, sometimes over. So this follow-up stuff, I don't know that it's, I mean, they had a chance to find somebody, but nobody was listening. Nelson sold out finally.
So do you have a question? Or?
Well, my question was about the decibel level, and should it be changed, lowered, the amount of decibel level at any homestead. I don't care where it is.
And that's something for the state, I think, not rather than the team.
That's something to consider, okay?
Thanks. Yeah. So we have a few more questions, and then we're going to wrap up. And you've been waiting for quite a while.
Thanks. Skip Lyle again. I agree that the infrasound, I think, is the greatest threat of many threats. And but given your high degree of confidence in the rigorous state permitting process, are you willing now to commit to helping people when they do get sick, or helping them if they can't live in their homes anymore. And secondly, given the fact that we're talking dollars and cents tonight, what is the value of human health? What is the value of a human life? Thank you.
I mean, these are all questions that we want to, that if we're fortunate enough to move forward, that the state evaluates, that we build into the modeling, that we build into the studies, that we build into the turbine locations. This is why there is a lengthy process to evaluate the project site.
You're not willing then to pledge your support to people who might get sick. Is that the answer?
What is the question?
I'll repeat it again. I said,
If you're willing to pledge to support the
if people get sick down the road or can't live in their homes anymore, you have a great deal of confidence in the state in the fact that this cannot happen. But if it does happen, given your confidence, are you willing to help those people? And what are their lives worth? We need to ask that question. It's a very populous area around this project.
I mean, again, I'll point to the fact that we have a long track record of building and operating these projects in a lot of different communities around the country, and we're committed to the safe operation of those projects, and we're committed to a process that governs how they get installed and how they're operated after they're installed, because we trust in that process, and we think that serves a vast majority of folks here in this room, around the state, and around the country.
So we have a few more hands. I've been asked to wrap up in 5 or 10 minutes, but you in the back there.
Yeah, I'm Steve Nolan. I've lived in town a couple of years. I'm just curious with the noise, and I kind of second John's question. It would be nice to simulate what the decibels are at these different locations when you're doing the sight lines as well, what the noise might be, and whether it's the most prominent windmill you're hearing, or is it a kind of a collection of the whole assemblage. But what is the decibel level at ground zero, right at the bottom of a windmill? And what would it be a mile away? And what's that relative to?
Can I just ask, is the state...
My question.
Yeah, so I wanted to get clarification on just a single point. So the state standard mirrors the World Health Organization. There's a 45 decibels. I don't know offhand what that's comparable to in terms of an appliance in your home or anything like that. I think there are charts out there that show what 45 decibels is equivalent to. The modeling that we'll share in technical workshops as we develop that stuff will show all of that on maps.
And rather than just a number, I think to put it in perspective, I'm a lowlander, so I live near the MBTA, I live near airports, I know what loud noises can be, but I think this is probably a steady kind of a humming. It's a continuous noise. I'd just like to put that in perspective. Is it what appliance are we talking about if you're a mile away? Because it seems like that's the closest proximity for people in Grafton.
And we've had tours of the other projects in Vermont, as well as our projects in New Hampshire. We'll probably offer those again. I think the best experience for folks curious about that is to come visit, stand underneath one that's operating, stand a mile away, at least to approximate what that's like over the course of your time during your visit.
Okay, a few more folks. The gentleman on the bench.
Dave Ross, Grafton. Earlier in the meeting and at previous times mentioned that there would be a vote by the town. How do you envision that? Is that a town meeting? Is that something Iberdrola is going to run? And this would be next November, I believe you said.
Yes. I think we would anticipate, based on our schedule of studies, and when we'll have the results, that election day next November would be a day to add it to the list of things that you vote on.
Does that include second homeowner?
No, the voters of Grafton would vote just like they would on anything else.
We don't care about second homeowner?
No, it's state law.
Did you get his name? I haven't heard his name.
Sorry, who was that just spoke?
Charlie Hooker.
Thanks.
I live on Thompson Road, right under the window.
Yes, I want to follow up on Skip Lyle's question with a yes or no answer. My name is Rita Siano, I live on 121 West. He didn't answer yes or no, he went around about the question. Are you prepared to help us if we have problems down the road, or we can't live in our house anymore? You didn't answer that, just say yes or no, that's all we want to know.
We have worked, well, I'm just going to tell you what our track record is.
I don't care, I just want to know now for us. Is it yes or is it no?
And, excuse me, but sometimes things are a little more complicated than that.
No. We want to know if they're going to make a commitment now to help us if we need help. We may not, I don't know.
If
But
folks bring to us issues and questions, we're going to work with them.
afterwards. We want to know now before things happen. Will you support
But
it?
then, I think what he just said, and I'm not part of the project team, I'm an outside facilitator, and what I heard him say was that if there were people who had concerns, that he would work with them. So that's.
We don't know what the concerns are going to be until after the fact.
So what are you asking him?
If something comes up after the project's running, we're ill, we can't live in our home anymore, we want to know now, are they going to help us? Yes or no? It's a simple question.
We have worked with people on operating projects.
No, save your breath. Save your breath.
We've worked with people on operating projects who've come to us with questions and figured out solutions.
So, we have two more, and then we're going to wrap up. Yeah, I think we have, okay, yeah, so.
Hi, I'm Kate, and I have a personal opinion about the vote issue. I don't think you should decide when and how the town votes because it's our town, so I think that we should take care of that. Oh, you do, because they were saying, oh.
I wanted to know about the dismantling of the wind turbines themselves. Is each one accounted for separately? How can we be sure that there's going to be money for dismantling? What is the cost of dismantling?
So the decommissioning fund that we enter into is based on you could say that it's broken down based on each turbine and then a project as a whole. So we would be required to post at the time of construction the security to dismantle the entire project, not just individual turbines. It would be.
And security would mean money?
Yes.
So it would
The state of
all
Vermont.
So for Grafton, it would be all 8 figured in?
Exactly.
And so, like, what is the amount for the 8 and where do the funds come from? What if you should all of a sudden just fail and?
We have to fund it at the time. We have to fund it at the time of construction.
And when you say fund it, what's approximate or?
I don't know what it would cost. We haven't. I can get that. We can calculate that number. I don't know what the cost of decommission for the 8 turbines is at the moment.
So that's written in the contract, and who holds the funds? I mean, is it something that you can guarantee you're gonna have, but if you go belly up for some foolish reason?
The Public Service Board is who holds it. The State Public Service Board.
A specific decommissioning plan is done for the specific project, looking at the specific, the turbines, where they're located, the costs associated with the deconstruction activities within a particular area. So that study is very comprehensive. It's done, it determines the amount of the funds, as Jenny indicated, that the Public Service Board then holds as assurance that if something happens and Iberdrola should disappear, that funds are there to dismantle the turbines. In addition, the decommissioning plans are normally set up such that if even one turbine is not operating for a period of time, like a year, that we are then required to remove it. So if one turbine ceases to function or has a major problem, we cannot just walk away from it and leave it standing there. If a turbine is not producing for a period of time, we are required, or the decommissioning fund is there to remove that and take it away.
And while we have not prepared a decommissioning fund for this project yet, or done any of those calculations, there are for the operating projects in Vermont, and we can make those examples available on our website and provide them to you. And actually, I'll be sure to bring examples to our next meeting.
Okay, so we have 5 more minutes. People are getting restless and hungry for pizza. So, if you have a quick question, go back to
Yeah, quick question.
Yeah.
You're aware that industrial wind turbines create a human health impact? That there's a human health issue with industrial wind turbines. Are you aware of that?
I've read that.
You've read that? Are you aware that if you go on Google and you type in industrial wind turbines and human health impact, that you will find pages and pages, let alone testimonials and YouTube of all the people who are suffering around the globe, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia because of wind turbines being sited in their homes? Are you aware of that? I mean, you're a professional who's bringing this to our town. I would think that part of your research that you're bringing here, instead of this analysis, which is quite short-sighted, okay, because it's only the pictures from specific locations. What's your data from Grafton?
I'm sorry, some other people have questions.
No, I understand, but I need an answer from the gentleman before you go on to your question. Are they aware that there's a human health impact associated with industrial wind turbines sited near residences?
We're here to present the studies. We're here to figure out if we have a viable project. All of the science that goes into citing that project is part of what we're presenting here tonight. And I'm certainly aware of what you're seeing on the internet, and I'm certainly aware of our track record in working with communities and operating projects all over the country. I'm pleased with how safely we operate projects in communities all over the country, and I think that's all I've got to say on the matter at the moment.
My name is Lisa Ruckert. I live off from Fisher Hill Road. And are you aware that you can find out anything you want on Google?
And, we gotta go. I'm sorry. The team will be around afterwards, but there's another piece that I didn't know about that they want to speak to about the post.
Yeah, I just want to, we've put the visual simulations that we've done, we've kind of put them on display around the back, and I just want to kind of show you what you're going to be looking at here. So we have the ones that we had up on the screen presented. This is the one from Grafton Pond. So basically, the big picture is the simulation. Picture down here is the existing conditions without any turbines. There's a map here. The red dot is where the picture was taken from. The yellow kind of shows the angle towards the turbines. There's some information here about distance to the closest turbine, location, date, time, turbine type, that kind of thing. And these are, we have these posted around the room. They're the ones we did here in Grafton. There's also ones that we did in Wyndham that we're going to be talking about tomorrow night. There's a few, the ones that I in Wyndham that we're going to be talking about tomorrow night. There's a few, the ones that I talked about that didn't have any visibility. So it's just the picture. There's no visibility from this one, from the one on Putnam Forest Road, but it's the same thing. Picture, original, map, turbine information, that kind of thing. Those are posted around for you guys to take a look at.
And we just want to say thank you again for all of you for coming and for taking the time this evening to listen to us and to ask questions and make us aware of your concerns. And we've got pizza in the back that is from the West Hamilton store, so please enjoy, and you'll see a bunch of us around here if you want to ask additional questions. Thank you.
Yeah, and
Because, like the one over there at the South Wyndham Church, I mean, I have a picture from across the road of that steeple in the Meadowsend beside it. So that would be good for him.
so is that one?
Yeah, it's near one of the churches. Yeah, that would be good to have. That would be a pretty good concept.
Yeah. Lynn Barrett's taking still photos of it. I tried to get them. This isn't the best way to take them.
From right up here, just a little ways up the side of Bear Hill, I can see the entire height of the Met Tower. So, you know, they chose their spots very conveniently.
Oh, yeah.
Of course. Anyway.
So that map up there is the layout they presented?
Oh, yeah, I should go look at that.
Yeah.
Turbine layout, yep. See, that's exactly. I mean, these are exact sites that I have marked. I mean, I have marked. Look, I mean, I have the. This is not a. Why are we here? Why are we here? Come on.
We're here because I sold my house here and I moved to another house in Grafton. Looked at that, and we looked at it, I think it was New Hampshire. And I said, well, the price is too high there, too high there. First words out of his mouth.
To a person? I thought it was about half an hour.
I want to see what there's. Oh. Well, the state should require.
No, the state doesn't care.
But the state.
But the state doesn't care. They just want to save the world.
I agree. They would respect that.
I know, but
and
they
would
don't.
require to.